Thank you again, everyone, for being here. And I'm so delighted that we're able to frame the conversation with such a powerful representation of some of the complexity of what we're talking about when we're talking about peace operations, and particularly about women serving as police in UN peacekeeping. I am now going to invite Assistant Commissioner Paula Dion of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police to make some opening remarks for us today. By way of introduction, Assistant Commissioner Dion joined the RCMP in 1986, where she has had a successful and varied career, including as a constable working in general duty policing, in forensic identification, and as the executive assistant to the Deputy Commissioner for Specialized Policing Services. Her extensive bio is available in a handout at the back of the room. In 2017, she was promoted to the rank of Assistant Commissioner, under which she assumed additional responsibilities for national intelligence and operations research. I'm going to leave it there and say, Assistant Commissioner, it is my absolute pleasure to welcome you to IPI.
Thank you, Sarah. So good afternoon. I'd like to thank you for coming today and participating on the forum on women police and UN peacekeeping. Today's discussion is framed by the 2015 film we just saw, or rather the brief snippet of it, A Journey of 1,000 Miles, Peacekeepers, reflecting on the experiences of the female police unit which deployed to post-earthquake Haiti. Now it's our responsibility to continue to carry their torch and to move the yardstick further. One of the programs under my purview as Assistant Commissioner is the International Policing Program of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which stewards participation in peace operations on behalf of all Canadian law enforcement. I am also a co-champion for the Women, Peace and Security within the Government of Canada. Policing and gender considerations have certainly significantly changed over the past few decades. In my 33 years as a police officer, the changes that I have lived through within the RCMP alone, from when I first joined to the role of today's female police officer, are quite remarkable. Having to have worn a different uniform, being expected to take on the pink jobs as opposed to the tougher jobs, and having to break down the barrier of our right to be part of specialized teams, which were usually filled by males, really are beyond us, thankfully. While some challenges remain, we have certainly come a long way in recognizing the value female police officers bring to peace and security. But there is more that can be done. Now, with 30 years of peace operations under our belts, deployed Canadian police officers play critical roles in supporting the implementation of Canada's National Action Plan on Women, Police and Security. This includes continuing efforts to meet and, in fact, exceed the current 21% UN target for individual police officers. Women currently make up 37% of Canada's international police peace operation deployments. Notably, many of these are in significant leadership roles, such as contingent commanders and gender advisors. Last year, however, our numbers were higher at 47%. So why are our numbers lower this year? The reality is that female police officers are required domestically as well. There's a need to fill ways to encourage the releasability of female police officers. Educating our domestic police partners on the importance of female participation in peace operations is crucial. Police chiefs need to understand that by sending an officer abroad, whether male or female, sees them coming back to with enhanced policing skills of tremendous benefits to the communities they serve at home. The RCMP has been implementing practices to improve our selection our training, and our deployment services. They include promoting gender equality and diversity via a gender-based analysis, a lens by which we have updated various templates and through which we now provide mandatory training. For example, including a feminine voice in recruitment posters, a she alongside the he, adding photos of female police officers in the material, including female presenters at training sessions, while seemingly small, goes a long way in encouraging female participation in what was historically fulfilled primarily by males. Gender-based analysis is also integrated into the proposal and the design stage of the RCMP's international capacity building programs, which has a demonstrated history of assisting partner law enforcement agents in improving the role of women in operational policing roles. Canada is prepared and eager to have a role in assisting other police contributing countries in enhancing their female officer skills, making them more eligible for peace operation deployments. We stand ready to continue to support the UN Pre-Selection Assistant and Assessment Team training initiative, as we have done in the past, through which over 1,000 female officers alone were trained. I'm also reminded of a program delivered by Canada and the RCMP to the Jordanian Gendarmerie exactly 1 year ago, through which a delegation of female Jordanian police officers traveled to Canada to observe training scenarios and to view the integration of both male and female in operational units. The delegation was accompanied by a senior-ranking male officer who witnessed firsthand the benefits of both genders working together. I am optimistic and hopeful that through his feedback to his colleagues, those same benefits were outlined. The appointment of RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucki further demonstrates Canada's policing commitment to women, peace, and security, and the employment of women in leadership roles. Commissioner Lucki herself has served on 2 UN peacekeeping missions in the former Yugoslavia and was also called upon to provide training to police in Haiti. We have no greater spokesperson to the value of peace operations, and in particular to the contributions of female officers. In looking for new ways of doing things, Canada continues to identify and develop innovative approaches to advance international peace operations. One such example is the ELSI initiative, which was launched in 2017. Through the ELSI initiative, Canada has established a bilateral assistance and training partnership with Ghana Armed Forces and Zambia Police Services. We have helped UN Women launch a global fund for innovative projects such as the investment of infrastructure needed for female deployments and training and mentorship programs for commanders and senior personnel. As well, we have spurred the creation of a comprehensive barrier assessment methodology to measure challenges and opportunities for women personnel. This assessment is being administered in Ghana and Zambia, and with additional funding from Norway, 6 other troop and police contributing countries are also being assessed. I am pleased to say that the barrier assessment methodology will be made available for all military and police organizations in mid-2020. Our hope is that the obstacles and opportunities identified through this process can contribute to a renewed focus on working together to ensure that peacekeeping forces are better equipped to carry out their mandates and to reflect the populations which they serve. There's work to be done at home as well. The Canadian Armed Forces will undergo the same barrier assessment as Ghana and Zambia, and the Royal Canadian Mounted Police will also have surveyed our members and Canadian police partners to understand how to better support an increase in female deployments. The ELSI initiative also found that women lack access to the support networks and the mentorship opportunities. Canada is very pleased to be supporting Germany and its creation of an online network for women peacekeepers to address this. From its inception, the ELSI initiative has been about collaboration. Canada could not undertake this initiative without support from our contact group, the United Nations, major troop and police contributing countries, and our trusted non-governmental partners such as the International Peace Institute, which has brought us together today. If I could leave you with one final thought, it would be, it is not enough to simply increase the number of females deployed. Rather, it is crucial to place them in key positions where the true value of what they do in conflict-torn states and countries can be realized. I want to thank you for being here today. I look forward to the discussions, and I'm honored to be part of this group. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Assistant Commissioner. Already, so many of the points that we're going to be discussing here today being flagged, what it takes to get the meaningful, substantive increase in women's participation that we're looking for, why it's important, looking at representation and communication and training, looking at the gender analysis that's needed, the political will and financing that's needed, and reminding ourselves constantly that this is not just about the numbers, all really salient points for our conversation. This is a topic that we at IPI are particularly engaged on. We are, with the support of Canada and the ELSI Fund, embarking on part of the research on various questions around uniformed women's participation in UN peace operations. So this is a topic that's very near and dear to us as an organization as well. I am going to introduce our panel in a moment, but I also do want to just flag that among the many of you distinguished guests who are joining us here today, I'm also really delighted that Major Seynabou Diouf, who was this morning awarded the Female Police Officer of the Year, the 9th to receive that award, is also with us today. So it's really great. I'm going to provide the briefest of bios for my incredibly esteemed colleagues on the panel here so that we can get right to the substance of the discussion. First, Mr. Nirupam Debnath from Bangladesh, from the Bangladesh mission here in New York, who has been with the Bangladesh Foreign Service since 2005, has worked both at headquarters and the Bangladesh missions abroad, and in his current role at the Bangladesh mission here in New York is responsible for First Committee, Peacekeeping and Peacebuilding, and counterterrorism issues, amongst other responsibilities. I'd also like to welcome Geeta Gandhir back to IPI. Geeta is the director of the film we've just seen the excerpt from, an incredibly powerful representation. As a director, producer, and editor, her films have won 2 Emmys, 4 Peabodys, an Oscar, along with many other awards. And her other films grapple, including I Am Evidence, grapples with the systematic nationwide failure to test rape kits, and her most recent effort directing Steven Spielberg and Alex Gibney's documentary series, Why We Hate. Also delighted to welcome UN Police Advisor Luis Carrillo, whose name I think I just butchered. My apologies. I went Spanish instead of Portuguese, who was actually serving at the mission in Haiti when the film was made, and I believe is actually in the film at one point. The commissioner has more than 32 years of national and international policing experience and has been seconded as United Nations Police Commissioner in 3 UN peacekeeping operations, in Central African Republic, MINUSCA, in Haiti, MINUSTA, and the integrated mission in Timor-Leste, UNMIT. And finally, but in no way least, I'm delighted to welcome Unaisi Vuniwanga, who is the first female police commissioner to serve with the UN mission in South Sudan, UNMISS. She began her service as an individual police officer, rising quickly through the ranks to command the Fijian police contingent before becoming deputy police commissioner and now police commissioner at UNMISS. And I'd like to welcome you all here today. To get started, I'm going to ask our panelists first to provide some reflections on their experiences regarding women serving in police. Nirupam, I'm going to turn first to you. What has Bangladesh's experience been with deploying women police? What have you tried as a government to improve their participation, and what has worked and what has been challenging?
Thank you, Sarah. And first of all, I would like to thank all the organizers for giving me this opportunity to share our perspective on this very important topic. In terms of our experience of sending female police peacekeepers abroad, I would say it had really been rewarding. The movie clip that we have all watched just a few minutes back speak volumes of the rewarding experiences that we had out of these engagements globally. And I think at the end of the movie, Mousumi's reflection that she has really been able to do something great for the humanity is really noteworthy, because this is what we have been trying to achieve, and this is the kind of transformative experiences that have long-term impact not only in the host countries our women police officers serve, but also globally and back to their own country. So these had been our experiences. This journey of Thousands Mile, when it started for Bangladesh in 2000, around the same time when we had the landmark Security Council resolution of 1325 on women, peace, and security. And around the same time, we sent some of the IPOs, individual police officers, to East Timor. But actually, the real journey, in a big way, started back in 2010, and which has been depicted quite well in the movie clip, when we sent a full FPU to Haiti back in 2010. And thereafter, we never stopped. So right at this moment, out of 700 police officers who are serving abroad under the UN umbrella, almost 24% of them are women. So we are leading not only in terms of one of the leading TPCCs trying to restore global peace all across the world, but also we are a leader in terms of sending female police peacekeepers. Now, what has gone well and what has gone not so well? I think, for sending female peacekeepers abroad in difficult situations, it's really important to have political commitment in the country, and society should also be prepared for that. In Bangladesh, we are very lucky that our Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina is very keen to encourage our women to dream big and achieve great things, be it in political field, be it in business field, be it in military, be it in police. And that has really transmitted into the society where now we have, a large pool of women in every sphere of professions. And police and military is no exception. There are many challenges. The challenges are multifaceted and multidimensional, starting from pre-deployment training down to including the family members into the decision making. In fact, it's an inclusive journey that would bring the real fruit, because unless the family members are not supportive to the women who are going abroad for 1 year, it would not be really helpful. So I would stop here, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think that a really important point there about ensuring the diversity of women's progress and participation across sectors as being one of the key factors in that 24% number that you referenced. Geeta, turning to you as the director of this film and also what all that entailed. And I think it would be really wonderful to hear some more about the experiences that you had making the film, behind the scenes reflections, most memorable experiences.
So thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to be here on this panel, and I'm particularly tickled to be sitting here with Mr. Luis Carrillo, who I think we drove absolutely insane when we were in Haiti. He had to constantly not only manage the mission, but then manage this rogue group of filmmakers who were down there always like sort of, in the way, possibly getting in trouble. And he was very, very patient and generous and kind. So the movie would not exist without his cooperation and participation. He is in the film at one point, giving a speech. So if you see the entire thing, you'll see him. So I think in general, the women, for us, I'll talk about the women because we were really embedded with them. And I think what was really powerful for my team was to see the women transform. Essentially, in this version of the film, there's two, because there's a longer version in which there are three women who are featured. But for all of them, I think in Bangladesh, although it is incredibly progressive in many ways for a South Asian country, it has, there has been a lot of progress. But it is still also a patriarchal country, which is also fairly traditional. And for a lot of the women, Moshami, who is one of the characters that was just quoted, said to us at one point that we women here in Bangladesh, we go from our father's house to our husband's house. And the opportunity for independence is very limited. And so most of these women had never traveled abroad. They were working in the police force at the time when we were filming, which is between 2013 and 2014. They were mostly assigned to desk jobs, which were very equally important, but they did not have a lot of field experience. And so they had never left, like I said, they had never left the country, let alone their homes. Some had never been on a plane. So for them to travel to Haiti on this mission alone, just that act alone was an incredible act of bravery. They left behind children, they left behind families. In Bangladesh, women are the cornerstone, they are the foundation of the family. And as you see, if you watch the rest of the film, things do sort of fall apart when the women leave. In some cases, their partners were very supportive. In other cases, they were not. But they're definitely, there is sort of, at home, there is some struggle when they leave because they hold so much together. They work full time and then are also managing the family. So that was a big challenge for the families at home that likely, needed more support. But so in taking this trip, though, the women, once they were on the ground, they were able to interact with the community in Haiti of other peacekeepers and police officers from around the world, and they absolutely learned from that experience and took so much away from it. They arrived in Haiti not as well prepared as some of the contingents or just police officers from wealthier countries who had longer training periods. So that was something that we had to reckon with while they were on the ground. But they readily accepted additional training and took on the jobs. It was extremely important to them that they serve their country and not bring shame, as they called it. They did not want to bring shame to their country. So they were really, really eager to do a good job and to serve the population. Of course, there was language barriers. They often had an interpreter with them. But what was interesting, we found immediately when we would tour with the women, the difference in the response to them was really incredible, particularly when we would tour the IDP camps and they would go on patrol. This is, again, the internally displaced persons, I'm sure. You all know what that means. But we would notice when the male peacekeepers would tour the camps, the women and children would remain inside. When the women would tour the camps, they would come out and follow us through the camp. And sometimes wanting to hold the women's hand, interested in what they were doing. There was an immediate rapport that, of course, for, I think, women, and really showed to us how critical it was to have women on the ground in places where there are the most vulnerable populations are other women and children who are perhaps still recovering from trauma around obviously violence and sexual violence, which was rampant in the camps. I think that for our women too, there was a question of economics. They made on mission 3 times what they made in Bangladesh. And for them, this was enormous. They were able to, it was a big factor in leaving home for a year. They were able to secure their children's education, and that was really important to them. They were, just by taking that 1 year abroad, and many of them were willing to do additional tours for that reason, because it allowed them to support their families, and not just their immediate family, but their extended families. So that was important. And I think in general, the experience, this probably applies across the board to women from police officers from developing countries. So, and I have to run out of time, so I will now be quiet. Okay, thank you.
I wish that we had far more time today. Thank you so much, Gita. I will turn now to Luis. The UN Secretary General's Action for Peacekeeping initiative recognizes the shared responsibility of all stakeholders to ensure the success of peacekeeping. What have been the strategies and achievements made by the police division in addressing barriers to women's recruitment and retention?
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you very much to IPI and, of course, with support of Canada to be here. And let me also, the same way, tell how delighted I am to be here with Gita. And it was a pleasure not to have you. And interestingly, and let me tell you, because let me use the image of the screensaver. In terms of the screensaver, it's very easy for us. But when you have a team that goes to the ground, goes everywhere, this is not the screensaver, this is the reality. And I believe that's the message that you, Gita, together with all the team, managed to pass, and that for the police is very positive, because usually also it doesn't come to the light. Now, going back to the question, and of course, let me tell you that I'm delighted to speak here about the barriers for women. Police officers to go on the missions. The film speaks by itself, and it's clearly one good example to see the difficulties that women police officers back in the country, and also the process back in the country, because let me start by that. In terms of the national police services, we recruit from the base of the member states. So if the member states do not increase, it's difficult then for the United Nations Police also to have numbers. And when we are talking about numbers, is not just numbers. As Gita said, and very well, to better have the children to come out, as you said, in the internal displaced people camps. The elderly, the victims of crimes, the refugees, the women, the ones that need more our protection, the victims, it's important to have women in the peace operations. And, of course, the police division, and together with all the DPO, or also, but particularly all the UN, we have the uniform gender, of course, parity strategy. Let me tell you also that at the time of the film, the Assistant Secretary General was Mr. Dmitry Titov, that is sitting over there. So it was also his responsibility for the film to be done. And I want to acknowledge that and to thank, of course, always his support. And our strategy, of course, has goals in a very measured way from now until the future. We cannot have drastic increases because they don't work. And the priority is always for us to be able to fulfill the mission on the ground. However, we are, let me tell you, in our strategy, working together with the member states and to make sure that we can, in a certain way, have the recruitment process more accessible to everyone. Our goals, of course, we cannot reach the 50%, at least immediately. So tentatively, we have slowly to go in terms of the professional posts, in terms of the individual police officers, and also the foreign police units. Here in the film, we are more featuring the foreign police units, particularly more concerned with public order, with the law enforcement in terms of the hard policing, but also we have the individual police officers, criminal investigation, community policing, even if, of course, the police delivers in an integrated way as a pack. So in a biannual basis, either the police division but also our colleagues of the military affairs. We, through the ASG of Orolsi, that is very supportive also, our Assistant Secretary General Alexander Zuev, we report on the progresses that we do, and we have the Uniform Gender Parity Strategy that are not just words, but is a document and a base clearly to implement. Briefly, what are our initiatives? And I will be very keen. We have, first of all, role models. The institution of the Female Police of the Year, that Senabu is a clear example. Then, the Female Senior Police Leadership Roster. We have police officers, female police officers, that in a certain way can also complement if the countries will put their name forwards for key positions. As Paula, and I'm delighted to be in the same room with Paula, because Canada is very supportive, not only the health initiative, but also for the senior female police commanders course. So where we can prepare better the female police officers from the member states, so for professional key positions at the highest level, they can be better prepared. Also another initiative, all-female SAT. So the selection process we do in particular countries through our SRS, and that is here, to have more police officers. And just one final point, that is clearly to increase female francophone participation. Finally, as you know, action for peacekeeping, it's key for us, and the police, clearly the politics, so the message in terms of increasing female police officers has to be politics, clearly to center the action on the people. Clearly, I believe that we will increase our performance with female police officers, but we need, of course, the partnership of the people, and finally, of course, peace building. I know that is, but to have strong institutions in the country is key. So partnership is key for all of us. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I do think you had 4 finales in there, but that's okay.
In the police, we are very good on that.
Really, really crucial points about how you take this sort of multifaceted approach to increase in terms of role models, in terms of rosters, in terms of the political, in terms of the partnerships. So thank you very much for that. Unaisi, I will turn to you. You have a wealth of experience to draw on, both as a policewoman yourself and as a leader in a very complex peacekeeping setting. In that experience, what are the most significant challenges in women's recruitment and in meaningful participation when it comes to police and peacekeeping? What were the most important enablers in your career that led you to your position today? And some of the compelling stories that we may not have heard.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sarah, and it's also a pleasure to be part of this very esteemed panel that I am with this afternoon. And I know I can't beat Luis with the words per minute that he's able to deliver all the finalities and also the very important points that he managed to put out today. But for the questions that ask, it's multi-pronged, and I'll try as much as I can to approach it in the 3 questions that have been put out. Firstly, on the significant challenges in women's recruitment and meaningful participation to police peacekeeping, I would look at it in a 2 tier. Firstly, from the prior to recruitment, whereby from the police contributing countries that we come from, the importance of access to opportunity, so that we can have that experience to be able to bring with us into the mission. And I think that is very key. And one of the areas that is also lacking in some of our police contributing countries that we continue to address from time to time. So if women officers are given the opportunity or access to opportunity at the highest level to be able to have that experience before they come into the mission, it will greatly help them when they come into the mission to be able to deliver at the highest level, whether it's police commissioner or deputy police commissioner. Without those experiences, it'll be a challenge to be able to come into the mission and get the opportunity to serve at the higher level. Also, another area that I would also look at prior to coming into the mission is the confidence for us police women to put ourselves out there. At times we need to be given the nudge to be able to put ourselves out there and be able to take on the responsibility so that we can gain the much needed experience that we need to get and have with us before we embark into the mission area. On the recruitment stage, from my personal experience, when I first tried, I had to try about 3 or 4 times to be able to get into the professional position in police division. So it has been a journey where I continue to look at myself in every attempt that I have made and how best I can be able to package my CV and my experiences so that it can be able to sell to police division the next time I actually try again. So I'm very, very grateful that police division actually came up with a course that they have been delivering with the support of the partners that are targeting senior cadre of the female officers to be able to be the pool to target the senior positions within the UNPOL component. So I have been part of that as well. And I have seen how it has also helped me into preparing for further interviews that I was able to get through. So it's been very, very helpful. So that progressive initiative by Police Division, of course, has really helped at this point in time. And of course, say for example, in South Sudan, it's something that we have also tried to replicate in the mission, with the mission training, to be able to assist our female officers or conduct a course whereby they can be able to prepare their P11, the forms that they're supposed to submit to police division before they can then be shortlisted for the interview. So these are some of the initiatives that we've also complemented in the mission so that it can also support female officers who are in the mission to apply for positions as well. I know time is all. So the next question, if I can move on to, in terms of what were the most important enablers in my career, I think for me it has been how I had the opportunity back in my own police organization to be able to serve in various director level at my police organization, community policing, human resource, strategic planning, and training. And this has helped me as a police commissioner in these various areas to be able to make that informed decision, even though I have my chief advisors who are there, whether it's operations, whether it's community policing. And I will be able to ask the right question to be able to come up with informed decision because I have that very wide experience. And I think that helps as well in terms of decision making at the police commissioner level in the field. What are some of the compelling stories of women police? In my mission, one of the positions that we have in the field office that is normally been taken up by male counterparts, and until recently we had appointed 2 female officers which are the position of POC coordinators. The POC coordinators are in charge of this protection of civilian site in South Sudan that has about 30,000 plus IDPs. And they are in charge of the security of those POC sites. I'm getting there. And when we put in these 2 female officers, they have been doing a great job up until now. And of course, they can just do as well as their male counterparts. Thank you.
I would really like to add an extra hour of discussion time to this event, I have to say. We're going to go to a second round of quick questions. I'll ask you to keep your points. I know it's terribly unfair, but even briefer than I've already asked you to, just to reflect on 1 or 2 points moving forward. I will turn back to you. Nirupam, just 1 or 2 examples of what Bangladesh's next steps are for building on the work that you've already referred to, and recommendations, tied with recommendations that you might make to other member states. Thank you.
Thank you. In terms of our next steps, what we have done recently, we have conducted a survey involving 93 peacekeeping veterans, senior women police officers, And we have found out interesting points in terms of the barriers they face in engaging peacekeeping operations abroad. So based on that, and also taking into consideration of the gender parity strategy of the DPO, we have actually developed a very specific plan until 2021 in terms of how and in what number to send our women peacekeepers abroad. We are very close to have our implementation plan for the implementation of the 1325. You are all aware that we are also in the steering committee of the LC initiative, thanks to our Canadian friends. And I think the barrier assessment methodology, once it would be launched, and once this will roll out in terms of assessing the barriers in different member states, would be really helpful. Under the A4P platform, we have placed to champion POC, women peace and security, and also reducing environmental footprint. In terms of sharing our good practices and experiences with other member states, I think South-South cooperation had been a wonderful window when it comes to development field, but we have not tried it in the peace field. So if we can actually bring those experiences of South-South cooperation in peace field, particularly in women in carrying forward the women peace and security agenda, this will be really great. I have run out of time, but thank you once again.
Thank you, and my apologies for making it so rushed, but it's an excellent and very concrete recommendations. Gita, a couple of stories that you would focus on if you were going to do a follow-up to this film.
Sure. I think if I was going to do a follow-up to this film, I think my interest lies in the impact on the ground and at home of the women's journey, their journey of 1,000 miles, if you want to put it that way. I think one of the things that really stood out to me was the impact on the ground in Haiti. I thought was incredibly profound in the way that the reaction to the women wherever they went was fascinating, because people were often astonished to see them, were taken aback by them. But then really to see the response of women and often children was incredibly positive. And I think that Maushumi was right when she said that they feel that they serve as sort of hope and inspiration to the women on the ground. There were definitely girls who spoke to us later about the fact that they could do this as well, and saw the women as sort of a symbol of empowerment. But I think as well, something that was really profound to me was that when we went back to Bangladesh with the women, Maushumi, this character that we saw in here, along with Farida, they both have sons. And one of Maushumi's son, who was 5 years old, when we talked to him after his mother returned, told us that he wanted to be a big shot police officer like his mother. And that was really, and he was like, I'm going to travel the world and, make money so I can support my children like my mother. And that was, to hear that statement alone told me that what the women were doing was sort of smashing patriarchy and bringing equity and equality in both places where they existed, at home and abroad.
That's really great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Your
Finally.
question is on my next quickly, we have an audience here, live and webcast. It's your opportunity. What do you think member states can do at the national level to ensure that there is this clear and achievable path to UN service for female police officers?
Leadership and partnership is key. The same way that our heads of police components that are in this room on the field have a key role to play, not only to promote internally Dunpol, but with our national counterparts, with the national police services and the communities directly, the member states, through the police services, have clearly a responsibility. Every 2 years, we organize the so-called UN COPS, United Nations Chiefs of Police Summit. Next year in June, we are going to organize it again. We are planning, of course, to have a compact on gender. My deputy Shawen, that internally is the one heading the gender task force on UNPOL. So internally we are doing it, but we need the member states clearly to help us on that. Because once again, leading by example, it's important that our leadership and the United Nations, what it is, the member states. The United Nations police, what it is, it's the police of the member states. And when I'm listening to Gita speaking with such passion, it's really leadership in partnership that we need with the member states, but also with all stakeholders, NGOs, members of the civil society, community leaders, because the police also is made of members of the community. And on that note, thank you.
Thank you so much. I didn't even have to pass the note. I think really very exactly what a very clear reminder of what we need. Unaisi. In 2018, DPO adopted the Uniform Gender Parity Strategy with targets to reach on uniformed gender parity. UNMISS has already reached the 2028 gender targets of 30% of individual officers and 20% of the formed police units, almost 10 years ahead of schedule. What is your secret for this resounding success?
Thank you very much. Whilst I'm tempted to take the credit for the achievement, but I know a lot is owed to the will from the top, the Secretary General's gender parity, the police division's effort in making sure that we're able to get women on board to be part of peacekeeping, the police contributing countries of the member states, and of course the mission itself. So it's really the integrated effort of all partners to be able to, for us to be able to reach to this level in as far as the deployment of female officers. And I think for us leaders, what is also important is the courage to hire women. Mm-hmm. And it's the right thing to do. And I think that's very, very, very important for us to be able to do that. Because sometimes as leaders, we are more concerned about our reputation if the mission fails because we have more women on the ground. But we don't really take into consideration the wealth of experience they bring on board and the diversity that they're able to bring to the mission if we get them on board. So those are the last comments from me. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much. We have, incredibly, approximately 8 minutes for some questions and answers. I will do one round and then come back to the panelists for their responses and some final thoughts. If you would like to ask a question, please just raise your hand and my colleague will bring a microphone, so we'll collect a few. Oh, please do say your name and your affiliation.
My name is Thiru. I'm the police advisor from Indian Mission. First of all, I would like to thank the IPA for organizing this wonderful session. And of course, the session starts with the punch, with a wonderful movie by Geeta. And I thank Nirupam and Commissioner Karillo and Commissioner Van Woka for sharing their perspective on this particular issue, which is, in fact, in police division, it is a kind of hot topic to have a discussion on it. It's a fact, and we also have been observing that whenever there is a opportunity for a police personnel increasingly working with the community, it's always that involvement of the women going to have a positive impact. So whatever we are trying to achieve, the involvement create more space for achieving more. And even it's also, in many cases, it also brought to notice that they also inspire the community where they are working for the gender's upliftment in the community. I have a comment and question as well. Maybe it's addressed to Commissioner Karelho. It's about, I understand that for the past 1 year, we have been speaking on increasing the participation of women, and we are successfully doing it. That progression is what I'm seeing that is perceptible. And I also see that from the supply side, I understand so many member states are ready and to contribute the police personnel, especially in the women. In one hand, we are saying that we are facing challenges to increase the women contribution in police. In the other side, I'm saying that from the member state side, there are member states, they have a trained police personnel willing to contribute more and more women. So I just want to understand, is it a kind of the wrong perception I have, or is there any mismatch which we can be looking into in order to address it, so that the progression and contribution would be more in the bigger pace. Thank you so much for giving me opportunity to raise the question.
Thank you. We have one here. Yep.
Colonel Peter Vohradik from the Czech Republic, permanent mission. And I have two quick questions, probably addressed more to the Commissioner. So first one, we have heard lots of success stories, how we are increasing diversity and ability to engage target societies on missions by increasing the participation of women. But are we potentially losing something by increasing this participation? And if the answer is no, well, feel free to say no. Second one, coming from the country that does not provide the police officers yet to the missions, I would like to ask whether the recruiting is better from the civil police or military police. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Any other questions before we turn back to the... It's a wonderful opportunity. Any other questions? Great. So what I will do is I will actually come back to the panelists, and because I do know that there is an obligation that you have after this, I'll ask you if there are any important points that you didn't get to raise during your presentations, raise them as well. So maybe I'll just start with Una, if you have any reflections on the comments that were on the questions that were raised here, or if you have another point that you wanted to make.
Yeah, thank you very much. On the first question raised, I think one of the key aspects as well that we need to take into consideration is the skill set that is specific for each of the mission. And this is also part of the recruitment process when we are trying to finalize as to the numbers that we bring on board, not only for female officers, but also for male officers. And I just wanted to raise that as very important as well in terms of our recruitment process.
Very quickly, and thank you for the questions. Of course, in terms of the member states, there is, in the national police services, as I said, there are key areas that can be also always improved. Tailored advertising, it's clearly one of the areas. Training, that is always key. Pre-identification of profiles, skill sets, as Unaisi also just said. Of course, to use people with experience also at the national level, to have policies that promote also international experience, and of course, that is key. As I said, the United Nations Police is based, or the mandates usually are given by the Security Council. Clearly, all the missions are different, and when we are talking nowadays about police, even back in our home countries, there is a need more and more and more for expertise in particular skills. I could be speaking here hours about criminal investigation, public order, community policing, sexual gender-based violence. So the police is one entire world in terms of skill sets. And of course, we need to have people with the proper skills, and within the people with the proper skills, female police officers, because as our Secretary General says, and as you could see in the film, in peacekeeping operations or special political missions, but also in non-mission settings, the need for female police officers is, or the difference that the female police officers do on the ground is immense. And I believe that the female police officers is increasing. Clearly, the strategy, we are also, it's a partnership, and in the spirit of the A4P, it's a partnership with the member states, also India, also Czech Republic, and we count, of course, with all the member states to contribute with police officers to peace operations, and particularly to the police, because I hope that I don't have to convince you that the police, as the first responders, as one of the most visible face of the state, works towards the politicians and in terms of keeping the apparatus, but more than that, is one of the most visible faces of the state closest to the people. And that type of role that the police has plays a key role. Finally, concerning the dichotomy civil-military police, the police, that is a national question. police clearly exists to serve the population. Police in the spirit should be close to the people and is the one that, in a rule of law perspective, where no one is above the law, keeps the rights, the human rights of everyone respected. So this is the principle that, in terms of United Nations Police, and of course we have the strategic guidance framework where you can find all the principles in terms of the police doctrine that are key for the United Nations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. No. Thank you so much. Nirupam, do you have any final thoughts that you would like or reflections on the questions?
Actually, going back to my friend Thiru's question, one of the reflection that I would like to share is that, of course, there are so many interested countries to contribute to the efforts of increasing women police officers to UN peacekeeping. But then again, of course, when it comes to creating the right kind of environment in the field, and also actually making this bridge of pre-deployment training, ensuring safety and security, and ensuring proper accommodation facilities of the women on the ground, there are challenges. And that's why perhaps we are now at a balance, but we are not not able to fly at the rate we would love to. So how to actually remove those barriers? We had this discussion in C34, and we are so grateful that our Canadian friends really helped us on a chapter which was about enhancing field support in peacekeeping missions. And there we talked about the real issues, the safety and security issues, which are actually very critical, because once we are not able to ensure enough safety and security on the ground, on the mind of the family members of the peacekeeper, this kind of apathy towards sending their loved one to abroad remains there. So it's country specific, but we need to very carefully work around the barriers, and then have, as our police commissioner said, partnership around removing those barriers. In terms of Bangladesh's society being patriarchal, I would I would love to defend a little bit and differ with our friend Geeta. Actually, in a country where we have seen over the last 20-30 years a prime minister being women and all the top political leaders being women, I think it speaks volume that our society is also transforming, and transforming in a big way. And that needs to be registered. There is this sort of stereotypical attitude towards, branding any Muslim society to be patriarchal. I would like to differ with Geeta on that. Of course, she has depicted the stories of two female peacekeepers, but it's not only about two stories. Even if we look deep into these two stories, there are differences. One woman faced some difficulties from the family front. The other women actually received tremendous support. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. I will start by saying patriarchy is everywhere. So it's not just about that. It is about a lot of the barriers that we're talking about here today. I think these are my concluding comments, are that we are grappling with what institutionalized patriarchy looks like. And what we're talking about here is how we overcome those barriers at a societal, at a national, at an institutional, multilateral level. So I think that is on behalf of my program, a pretty fantastic note to end on, which is what are we all doing to dismantle that patriarchy that is creating those barriers. This has been obviously an incredibly rich conversation. I'm looking forward to the next film, the follow-up that you're going to do, because I think that would really be an incredibly powerful representation of what we're talking about here, which is exactly as you said. It is about police existing to serve the people and representing those communities and being close to those communities, and that's exactly what you've talked about, Una. I want to thank you all for being here. I know that this is an incredibly busy week, particularly for those of you who are affiliated with the police in some way. It's been a rich discussion. We're out of time. I am very much looking forward to continuing the conversation. I would like to thank you all and Canada for being part of this conversation today. Please join me in thanking everyone.
On Women, War and Peace 2. When I got selected for the mission, my husband was totally against it. Peacekeeping is a broad concept. As Bangladeshi women, we are proving to those back home that we can serve the public.